To this goal setting workshop. I'm so pleased to welcome you in to have a chat about where we're going next, what we're doing. It feels like a really good time of year to do that. So if you are watching live, if you are catching up on the replay, either is good. You join me from some kind of lagoon going on / Disney princesses, and I've just been to pick up my new trainers, which make me feel a little bit like an 80s dad, but I'm really into them. Yeah, my mum bought my kids a pair of trainers each, and then she said, get some for yourself as well. So I was delighted with these, £36, reduced from 90. Thanks very much. And I quite like the yellow. Bit of something. So enough about my trainers. This is about you and where you're going next, as it were. And the opening thing that I want to share with you first and foremost is I want to help you get back into a proactive state of running your life, running your business, rather than a reactive. Now, I know that many of us have adulting commitments and things that we need to do and other people that rely on us. But alongside that, definitely for the last 4 or 5 years, we've had this other stuff going on in the background where we've been waiting and, I feel like society's been telling us things and like, are we locked down? Can we open our business? Can we not? All of these things. And I think, therefore, many of us have made those adjustments because everything has felt a little bit unpredictable. And I really want to help to guide this next chapter for you, where you say, okay, I'm going to think about what it is I want to be, do, have and feel next, and really consider it and take it seriously. And I know that many people sometimes say, well, I don't want to plan too far in ahead, or, I'll just see what happens. But I guess the place where I want to begin is I have done that. I have waited and seen what happens, and I've kind of bobbed along. And I also realise that that doesn't necessarily make me happy, because I know when I'm in alignment. I know when I'm doing work or a project, or I'm in a place that I really love, that I feel connected with. And once you've had that feeling, I know personally, it's like, I want more of it. It's like I will never be one of these people who will just eat out every night for the sake of it rather than cooking at home. Yes, I love to eat out and try new restaurants, but I'm not just going to buy like a terrible Tesco sandwich if I could make a great sandwich at home. Do you know what I mean? It's all about discernment and your version of success. So I want to help you to start from this place and welcome you into this proactive state rather than reactive. And again, we might have other things that are altering or must be considerations in terms of what we're doing with our lives and our business, of course. But for many of us, that is just part of life. And so if we can work with those adjustments and bear them in mind, we can still make the progress that we want and create the things that we want to be, do, have and feel. So the first thing that I want to introduce you to, or the next thing rather, is what I call the magical triangle. And this is something really good to bear in mind when it comes to goal setting and planning ahead, because it will really guide you in terms of making progress, and it will really help you to identify what is needed here. And I want you to imagine an equilateral triangle, so a triangle with identical 3 sides, because if this triangle is in alignment, you can feel it and it feels balanced, it feels grounded. So when you're thinking about your goals, the first thing is strategy. That is one side of the triangle. So how are you going to get from where you are right now to where you want to get to? So the strategy. Next, the vision. What is that vision? Where are you going? What is that end destination? And finally, the mindset. Now, there's often two layers with this mindset. It's how you're actually thinking about things. And so you might write this list, a very practical to-do list, like I'm going to do this and this is happening and things like that. And then underneath, you've got that subconscious element. So on one hand, you might be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this, I'm going to create this. But what we have to do is also work with our beliefs that are underneath, that are perhaps slowing us down, getting in the way and holding us back. So the reason that I want to share this magical triangle is with the vision and the strategy and the mindset, they all need to work together like three little pals. So if, for example, you have the vision and you have the strategy, but you don't have the mindset, yes, it's going to be easy to plan where you're going next, maybe to create that process, get going with things. But unless you have the belief that this is possible, it's going to be really difficult to actually bring to fruition. Likewise, you might have a great plan, a great strategy and the mindset, but if you don't have the big vision, you might feel like you're just doing busy work, going round and round in circles and doing all of the things and being busy and having appointments and working all the hours and trying harder. But ultimately, if you don't have that other piece of the vision, like where are you trying to get to, it's going to be really difficult to do that. Equally, if you have the vision and you have the mindset, but you have no process, you might feel a little bit directionless. You might feel like you're missing the momentum. It will be difficult to kind of make progress along the way. So that is the magical triangle. And I want you to bear that in mind as we go through these things. And what I want to leave you with tonight are 5 really practical things that you can do right now. So I am a big fan of positive thinking and I love reading books about the universe and manifesting and all of that. But equally, there's a very, not cynical, because that sounds a bit depressing, questioning. There's a questioning northern girl in here who is always like, but how? But why? But what can I do? Give me the practical tools. So today, I think this workshop is going to be 2 parts. Already, as I was preparing for it, I'm like, this feels a bit bigger. So I'm going to do half of it today, and then I'm going to pop back and do half tomorrow as well. But as I mentioned, I will save both of them. You can catch up whenever you want and do it in your own time. Also, you can save them and revisit whenever you want to. So today, I want to share with you 5 things that you can do right now in order to, just bear with me 1 second. That's my little lad at the door. Is Matty going to get the door? Will you hang on? This is very unpro. I'll be back. 1 sec. Matty is on it. Okay, so the first thing, why we don't make progress. I often think there is a fear of failure. And on the surface, again, this is when the conscious and the subconscious mind come into play. In a conscious way, we're like, no, I really want to do this thing. This thing is exciting to me. This feels really aligned. And yet underneath, we might have a belief, well, it might not be possible for me though. Or maybe it's going to take a long time. Or I've had failures before. What's to say that this is going to work? And so this fear of failure is often it comes up in all of the people that I've worked with. And I've worked with so many successful on paper people, ambitious, driven, achieved so much, and yet this fear of failure drags us back because many of us were taught to play it safe. I don't know if you went to a school like this where the dialogue was very much like, don't get your hopes up too much, or like, it might not be your turn, or there's only one winner, or, just be grateful for what you have, all of these things. And so through that transition, I think many of us did perhaps hold back a little bit, did play small a little bit, because that fear of failure, and also as well, I think if you've ever been in that moment where you've maybe tried something and it didn't work, I feel like it lingers around like a stale hangover, and it kind of wants to put you in this place and keep you safe. So number one, the fear of failure. If you are feeling some of these feelings, I want you to name them and acknowledge them and recognize them. Welcome them in. Come and have a conversation. Rather than doing that thing that people say of like, no, but I'm thinking positively. I'm just going to push them down. I'm just going to squash them. I'm going to pretend that they're not there. The thing with something like that is that it's going to keep popping up. It's going to pop up when you're least expecting it. So this fear of failure needs to be looked at. But, and here's when we move into the practical element, a way to combat this is to set yourself up for success. And so many experts on the internet will always tell you about success, that it doesn't happen by accident. And I really believe that. I don't think it does. I don't think suddenly we just wake up one day and then suddenly everything's changed. I think that it's a gradual thing. We have to meet it with action. And setting yourself up for success looks and feels very different to different people. And there may be so many clues from your past, from your previous successes that you can lean on. But if you don't necessarily know what that is, I want you to ask yourself, what do you need in this moment? What do you need to add in, almost like you're tasting a dish? You know, when you are cooking and you're like, you taste it. What does it need? Does it need more salt? And then you might look at the texture. It needs thickening up a little bit. Maybe you need to turn up the heat. Maybe you need to turn down the heat. Maybe you need to let it to rest a little bit. So many things along the way. So many clues. And this is our point of beginning, where you might have this big long list of all the things that you want to do this year and where you're going next. But I want to ask you what you need, because we all know that phrase of what's got you here won't necessarily get you there. And so many of us are so used to just cracking on and hoping for the best and don't worry about me and I'll do what I need to do. But actually, if you add some ingredients that make you feel good, that you meet your needs, I believe that you're much more likely to really be able to go for your dreams and really make progress. And sometimes setting up yourself for success is through a conversation with other people. Maybe it's saying, I need to maybe saying to yourself, you need one of the things that I do is I get up earlier before everybody else in the morning. Now, there were many years where I didn't do that because I didn't sleep throughout the night because I had small children. But now they do sleep a little bit more and a little bit later. I mean, not massively so. But anyway, I'll take it. But that moment in the morning where I can really welcome in the day, where I can really settle into the day, that is a real sweet spot for me. If I can get that 10, 15, even if I get an hour, I mean, that's very rare. But if I get it, it feels really, really great. The next thing I want to talk about is the lack of clarity. And again, this might come up because we're maybe not used to really going into detail of what we want to be, do and have and feel. And we make do and we say things like, I don't know, even if I could go on holiday this year, that would be great. Like, oh, I'll be so grateful. Just have a few days off. Or you might say something like, I want to make more money in my business this year. Or like, I just need a few more clients. And what I urge you to do when you find this in your goal setting, in your planning, is to really take the time to be focused. And I liken this to having a sat nav. If you've got the sat nav and you punch in the postcode, you have a sense of where you're going. And I think mainly it makes everybody feel much more comforted, like, okay, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing, this is how long it's going to take approximately, and this is the route. If somebody's like, let's just go for a drive and let's just see what happens, that might be quite nice. I mean, it's not my thing because I like to know where I'm going. But after a while, you might be like, okay, there needs to be some kind of purpose to this. Also, because with clients, I am all about progress and measurables and really helping people to check in. It's really important to work out what are your measures of success? What are you doing? Where are you going forward? So when you say things like, I want to make more money in my business, or I want a few more clients, or I want to go on holiday, you have to know what that looks and feels like. Because if you do know, it's much more easier to make it happen. And I often think about this in terms of a holiday. If you got 20 people in a room and they said, you know, would you like to go on holiday? Yes, I'd love to go on a nice holiday. I bet you each person's interpretation of a nice holiday would be different. Somebody'd be like, I want to go on a cruise. I want to go to an 18 to 30s holiday. I want to go camping. I want to go walking. I want to go sightseeing. There are so many different versions of it. And so if we can be in that conversation with our brain where we say to ourselves, this is what we're looking for, brain. This is what we're focusing on. This is what's exciting. This is the measure of success. Then great. Your brain's like, okay, no worries. I'll find it. Off we go. So that is a really great thing that you can do now. When you're thinking about your goals, I want you to take that time to be focused. The next one. I want you to move from keeping your goals in a locked drawer or a notebook that you wrote back in January to keeping a close eye on them each and every day. And I always say to my clients, put your goals where you can see them. For me, when I'm teaching this or when I'm doing it in my own life, when I have a goal, it's about building a relationship with that goal for me. It's not something that I hope will just magically come in and, you know, arrive on my doorstep. It's about us moving closer to each other. So if you think about it as that relationship, not only does it mean that in order to have that good relationship, it's a good idea to check in with it on a regular basis. But also if you have that sense of progress and you feel like things are not necessarily happening, you are more likely to create progress if you take action. If you stay in that place where you're sitting back and like, nothing's happening, I've ordered my dream and it didn't arrive, oh, maybe it's not coming, rather than being open and saying, okay, this maybe is not happening as quickly as I would like it to be. Is there something that I could do here? How can I get the ball rolling? How can I get things moving and shaking? Again, it's about moving into that proactive state rather than that reactive state. Number 4, excuses. And we have to be careful here, and we have to be kind and compassionate with ourselves, because many of us have lots of things going on aside from all the other things that we want to be, do, have and feel, and like our work commitments, and there's always things bubbling under the surface. This is adulting, isn't it? You know, I can think of so many people in my life and they have variables of different challenges. And so I'm talking about excuses very, very carefully, because if somebody, for example, had told me at 38 weeks pregnant, I was making an excuse, like, oh, you're just making an excuse because you're pregnant, I knew that there were very few things in terms of my life plans that I needed to be doing at 38 weeks pregnant. Actually, what I needed to be doing at 38 weeks pregnant was taking it easy, because I was so flippin' massive and tired and uncomfortable. And so this thing about excuses is one of those that is an honesty check with yourself. And I know personally when I'm being truthful and saying literally there's nothing else that I can do today, or today is not the day. Like if I've got flu or neurovirus, I know that I need to rest and not be going for a run. But if I wake up and I look out of the window and be like, oh, it looks a bit cloudy today, I know that that's an excuse. So this is about really getting to know yourself and getting to know your inner dialogue. And over the past 157 days, I've been running every day, 15 minutes. And I've tracked it all on my YouTube channel because it's just been such an interesting habit. Because bizarrely, when I say I've run for 157 days to people are like, you've run? I'm like, mate, I'm literally doing 15 minutes around the block. I'm not running marathons. I'm not particularly fast or elegant as I do this. But yes, I have run. But I tell you what, that habit, not about the running. It's not about the running. It's about all of the other stuff that you need to either clear to get out of the flipping house, or as you run, sometimes it's easy to get out of the house and I'm like, I feel so great, I'm good, I'm off to the races, I'm running, 3 minutes in, I just want to go home. I can't do it today, my legs won't work, or I feel so out of breath, like all of these things. Then there are some times where I faff about all morning and eventually I shove myself out the door. And then once I'm out, I'm good to go. So in terms of your big goals and your big dreams, it's really about understanding yourself and understanding your own pace. Because we know these bros on the internet that talk about 18-hour days, working till 2 o'clock in the morning, sleeping for a couple of hours, getting up, doing a 3-hour workout in the gym. That is not the way that I want to live. That is not aspirational to me. And I think I would be loopy if I slept for only 2 hours a night. I'm not doing that. And therefore, that sometimes means that when I'm planning goals, when I'm creating strategy, or when I'm working with clients, it's about really tuning in and saying, I think we need longer to do this. Instead, because again, there was this culture of, I'm going to create an ebook in a weekend. It's like, give yourself a fortnight. It's all right. Like the time is fine. Enjoy the process. We don't have to be fastest finger first the whole time. And so when we're looking at these excuses, it's really about clearing the way for what it is that we want to be. Because so many of us can change in an instant. We are one decision away. How many times have there, maybe in your own life as well, been those sliding door moments where you said yes or where you said no? What could have been or not? And I see excuses like that. I see it as a dialogue. And one of the things that I do to combat this, and this might be really an interesting exercise for you to do, if you've got one soundtrack the whole time, I'm sure we all have them, that negative voice, whatever it is, and it will probably have a couple of really popular phrases, and you know this voice so well. I know exactly what mine does, what it says, and it holds me back. And again, this is about welcoming it. Come and sit at the table, limiting belief. Come and sit down. Let's have a conversation. What is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that you need from me? What do I need to listen to? And where are you not being heard? How can we work together to release this? And one of the things that I've realized during this is that as soon as I welcome it in, I get more information about the limiting belief. And I find out more things about it. Sometimes I find out that it's so old. I did this the other week. This limiting belief that I had was 30 years old. 30 years old because some boy said this thing to me. And I'd carried this limiting belief for the last 30 years. It was like some kind of like manky spot on my shoulder, something like that. And I was like, I need to let this go. Because actually, I've now got 30 years of evidence that contradicts what this thing is. And that person who said that thing, that was not the truth. That was their opinion. And yet I'd taken it on. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. So having a dialogue with it has been so powerful for me because I see it for what it is. And we do this sometimes with little children, don't we? Where we welcome, they might say, I'm not feeling great, or, I don't, do you have a good day at school? Not really. Yeah, it was all right. But it's only until you create that space, and it's often at the end of the day in our house as well. Like, can I just sit and have a chat with you? Yes, because that's when you have that space to bring it in. And I often think that when we are thinking about this next chapter, this next version of ourselves, the way that it's framed on the internet is that we literally like press go, press play. Okay, here we go. New version of myself. Everything's going to be great from now on because I've decided. And again, people talk about these things of like, I just made the decision and then 2 seconds later, my life changed. Yes, there is a decision. But there is always stuff underneath. And if you don't catch it the first time, literally it's like one of those things. Have you seen that program Wipeout where the inflatables go round and they have to jump over the thing? And after a while it gets faster and faster. And before long it's like going to knock them over. That's what happens with your limiting beliefs. Like the more that you push them down, the more they're like, all right, I'm going to pop up when you're least expecting it. And so this has been something I've really honed over the last year or so. And I would love to say to you that it's been a glorious experience bringing all this stuff to the surface. But it isn't. It hasn't been. It's almost like if you unblock, I mean, it's quite a disgusting thing, but if you unblock like a plug hole or something like that, you're like, oh, when you get hair out and all of that sort of stuff. That's what it feels like. But there's something about it that once it's out and you look at it and you know the texture of it and you're like, oh, this is what it is. And so what I've been doing in this and what I would love you to take away today is to have that relationship and welcome it in and not be frightened of those parts of yourself that feel a bit uneasy, because also when you have those, and especially if they're repeat patterns, you might have that tendency to go, oh, I always do that. Oh, this thing always comes up, and it becomes part of your identity. But remember those things, again, going back to that like horrible spot that I was describing on my shoulder, like the amount of times that spots can like change or be cleared or healed or those sorts of things. So it's definitely something that can move and reshape and all of that great stuff. Finally, this is the final part of tonight. So many people come to me and they want to make change. And yet they have no room to change. And they are so constricted in where they are right now. It's almost like trying to do a big dance routine in a lift. There's only so far you can go, and you're like, I can't quite stretch my arms enough. And so if you're in that place where you want to make a change, but yet you're so busy, and in your head you're thinking, I would love to be, I just need a fortnight. I need a fortnight to do this thing. Or when I used to hear about people going to retreats in Bali, and so many people were doing that at the beginning of my coaching, when I started coaching. And I had a tiny baby at that time. And I just thought, I can't see myself in Bali anytime soon, because I've got a baby, and that just doesn't, I mean, I was so deranged and tired, but that just didn't make any sense to me. And yet I knew that I wanted to grow and expand and knock my own socks off in my own way. And so if you're in that place of no room for change, I want you to give yourself permission to make tiny little tweaks. It doesn't have to be anything major. And I know, again, everybody talks about this thing of going all in. I went all in. I sold my family on the internet, and then I went all in. And again, many of us don't want to, or can't do these things where we go all in, where it's like, everybody forget about anything, my role, what we've done up until this point, because we're caring for other people. And so we have to make it doable. And again, this is what happened when I started the running journey, is that I knew that I could find 15 minutes. And I set that goal very, very deliberately, because 15 minutes was a chunk of time that I could fit into my day, no matter what madness, chaos was going on, whether we were like doing all of the things. And if at the end of the day I couldn't get out for 15 minutes, I could go in my garden and like jog around, and that was fine. And sometimes, especially over the Easter holidays, that's what I did. But there's something about doing that little and often thing every single day that tricks, or not tricks, because you're actually doing it, but this 15 minutes gives my body, gives my confidence, gives my habit building so much oomph, because I actually did the thing. I did it again. I did it again tomorrow. I did it again yesterday. Like, I've got that track record. I've got that momentum. And what happens, going back to that lift analogy of like trying to do a big full-on dance routine in a lift, the more that I've taken those little steps, the bigger that space has expanded. And yes, it's gone slowly but surely. And again, people talk about, you know, you've got to go to the jungle and do a plant medicine journey or things like that. Again, I'm not in that place where that is something that I want to do. But with this ripple effect of this daily habit, it's expanded what I know to be true, what I think I've been capable of. It's begun to set off little sparks, expansions, and things like that. And so when we think about change, we think that it's only possible if we do something massive, something extraordinary. And I really want to advocate for doing things, but doing them consistently, and small, tiny little habits. Even things like 5 minutes of meditating a day, turning your phone off, or listening, or visualizing, or walking around the block, or I don't know, making sure you have 3 extra vegetables a day, whatever it might be. Those tiny little things will get the wheels in motion. One little Brucey bonus before we finish tonight. I want to give you an example of something that was very real. And in 2015, I had my son. And we had this terrible sofa, like really terrible sofa. A second-hand one. It used to be in my dad's house. I'm not quite sure how it arrived in our lives, but anyway, we had the sofa. We were grateful for the sofa. But when I had him, I was sitting on the sofa a lot and like feeding and trying to get comfy and like, oh my goodness, like first baby and all of that. And by the end of it, this sofa was like, I can't sit on this sofa anymore. This sofa is awful. And the wheels were in motion of how can we welcome this new sofa. And at that time of just having a baby, going and spending all that money on a sofa, it wasn't feasible. And yet I began with the dream, with the wish anyway. And so I begun that process of all the things that I could do. I began when my baby was asleep. I got on every single furniture website. I got to know all the names of the sofas. Is it a right corner? Is it a left corner? How many of those seats? How many people can you, when they say 8-seaters, what do they mean? What kind of fabric like all of these things. And I almost use it as an exercise of enjoyment, of just seeing what would happen. And then I began to look around the living room saying, well, if we're going to have this kind of corner sofa, what would need to go? And, oh, that furniture's not going to work. We're going to have to move the table. Oh, can we still open the door if we get that one? And so I began that process of making room for the sofa. And the reason is that sometimes we think that the sofa is just going to arrive. You know, I have the thought, I really like a new sofa, and the next day it's going to arrive on my doorstep and be plonked in the middle of my living room. Highly, highly unlikely. Likewise, with our own goals, with our own dreams, the things that we want to do in our business, we really have to think about how we're making space for them, how we are opening up that capacity to welcome more in. So for example, if you want to grow your audience and you want to welcome more people into your world, you need to think about ways in which you can do that. So when those people come in, you have everything that they need. You have systems and support ways of doing these things. You have a container for it. It's one of those things where if you suddenly went, I'm going to have a party, or I'm going to welcome the neighbours to come round. When you open the door, you want to have a place where people can sit, or you want to be able to offer somebody a drink or something to eat. It's the same with your audience. It's the same with your goals. When your goals and your dreams are trying to come to you, they're only going to come when there is that space, that capacity. And to go back to that sofa story, once I began that process, bizarrely, it happened really, really quickly. 2 months later, like I got a job, something happened. I can't remember what the thing was. And then the sofa came and it was perfect. It was great. And all of that process of I remember going to Tottenham Court Road, we went and sat on the sofas. There's a great one of me and my partner and a tiny little baby of 12 weeks old sitting on this sofa. But my final thing I want to share tonight is you have to go first. You have to go first. You have to name and claim what it is that you want. And I've been an actor for 25 years. Acting is still part of my income pie. And you would be surprised how many waiting rooms, and this is a really good example because you can take it into your daily life. I've been in so many waiting rooms over the years, audition rooms, casting rooms, where I have enjoyed the greatest people watching moments. So usually there's the creatives, there's the production people, there's the casting director, there's all of the people milling around, and then there's the actors. It would blow your mind, and it's so obvious not to do it, but so many people do. The amount of people that spend that time complaining about what's not been happening, what's not been going on, how they never get seen for anything, how they're thinking about giving up, all of this stuff. They bring it all to the table instead of doing their own work, clearing it and coming in fresh, like you would with a relationship. I haven't been on the dating scene for a long time, but I do remember those moments where somebody's got that hangover of the person they used to go out with, and they're oh yeah, all women are like this. And it's are they though? Are they? And I want you to think about this in terms of your goals and your dreams and where you're going next. And what I mean by this is, don't let the other stuff get in the way. The stuff that's maybe not worked, the stuff that you tried and it maybe didn't go to plan or the way that you hoped, clean it up, clear it up, and make space for this next version of you. Because there is a new version of you that is ready to come through. It's almost like the sofa version, the massive sofa, the next version of you is waiting to come in. And it's not just going to happen by accident. You have to clear that space, be very clear about the details, be very clear about what the look and the feel of this, and ultimately also how you will know when it's arrived. When I am working with clients, I am so particular about the nitty gritty. And it's so easy to throw out these vague phrases of like, yeah, I would just love, like, I'll know it when I see it. That is one. I'll know it when I see it. I don't know what it is, but it's not that. When you are saying these vague phrases to yourself, you're cheating yourself out of the result that you want. Because the result that you want has to be so specific. So if you want to bring in more money this month in terms of your business, if you want May to be your greatest month ever, what does that look and feel like? So if I was working with you, I would be saying, okay, how much do you want to make in your business in May? What's the number? And secondly, how do you want to make it? Because there are so many different ways that you can make money. There are so many different ways that you can support people and work with people and really help people and use your expertise in the most magnificent way and deliver excellence. And yet, so many people think it's for the outside world to name that and to tell that person about it. It's nobody else's stuff. It's your stuff. You have to stand into your power first and say, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I help people. This is why I'm different. This is the extra something I can bring to the table. And again, this is another thing that's happened with me over the years. When I've had a portfolio career for 25 years. And in the beginning, I was so hesitant. I was so tentative. I didn't want to confuse anybody. I thought that people would think that I was being chaotic or couldn't make my mind up or, I was a failure in one area and that's why I had to do something else. And it wasn't until I said, I do these things. I earn money from acting, coaching, writing, speaking, content creating, workshops, affiliate payments, and really stood in that place. Then I realized what happened around that in all of the great stuff of having a portfolio career. The fact that I'm not just stuck in one industry. So I'm always looking around for inspirations. I'm reading in all kinds of different topics. I'm in different places and spaces each and every day. And so I'm not in that chair going, great, I've just got another hour appointment now. Come on in. Yeah, great. I'll just do the same thing again and again. Because that's not the best way for me to work. I actually get lots of inspiration from lots of different things. So, I hope tonight has been useful. I would love to know your thoughts, things that came up, stuff that you're going to make space for. I would love to know what your version of the new sofa is, especially as we go into the next month ahead. And to really consider it and really take your life seriously. And really trust sorry, that sounds very dramatic, take your life seriously. But I think it's easy. I think it's easy to bob along. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for joining. It's easy to bob along. It's easy to get busy. So many people today were like, I can't believe it's May next week. It is May next week because time moves. Life happens. And I want to help you make sure that you get the things you want to be, do, have and feel. And really claim them and really stand in them and really know that they are meant for you. Because when you're thinking about the things that you want to be, do, have and feel, they're very specific for me. And many of them have been part of my wish list, my body, my mind, my spirit for many, many years. And there are also so many things I have zero desire to do. And also there are places and spaces, you will know it yourself when you've been in a place and you're like, this does not feel good in my body. Or you might walk in and go, yeah, I don't want to eat here. This is not for me. Or you might go in a shop or something like that. And it's not to say that that place is wrong. It's just not right for you. And so if I'm going to trust all those things that I know are not for me, I am going to also trust the things that I know are for me. because I don't believe that I would have this same thought, this same idea that keeps coming up, or those ideas that wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't think they're random. I think they're there for a reason. And so I'm then going to go into the detail. And I'm so glad that you've mentioned that detail, because it's so important. And one final thing I would say is, when you're thinking about that detail, I want you to think about it in a sensory way. What are you hearing? What are you tasting? What are your surroundings? And really go to that place. Like, to give you the example of the sofa, I just kept having this vision where I wanted to have that corner bit where I could lie down flat. That just felt like the most luxurious thing. I was like, I'm going to load all my pillows up and then be able to lie and still watch the telly. That just felt great. And somebody else could sit next to me. I mean, that was literally as luxurious as it got. But it was so, I could feel that. And I wanted that sense of the cushions being quite padded. I got into the detail. Final thing. Once you've got your detail, once you've got your equivalent of the sofa, I want you to practice saying it out loud. And I want you to start talking about it. And I want you to start feeling it in your body. Because so often, especially with clients, and this is much more business stuff, people put stuff on their website and they write a couple of beautiful paragraphs, or they put their prices on there. And as soon as they've done that website stuff, they're like, good, I'm done. That's it. And when I work with people, that for me is only the beginning. Because I want to help you to feel it. And I know the bros on the internet will talk about pricing, like put a 9 or put a 7 at the end, because like that's really compelling for an audience. But if it doesn't feel right for you to put a 7 or a 9 at the end, or if you feel a bit like out of alignment when you say it, it doesn't matter if you put it on your website, because you're not going to be connected to it. It's almost like if you went on a date with somebody and they'd read, the 10 things that you need to consider to have a successful date. So they might turn up and be like, hi, I'm not going to put that in my mouth because it's a wire. What else can I find in here? Okay, this is my daughter's thing. But if they had like a rose in their mouth, like, hi, and you're like, do you want that rose in your mouth? No. Or if they're pulling out chairs and it's all a bit awkward and suddenly they're like, do you want me to play something on the violin? And it's like, no, I just need to have a chat, because I feel like just having a chat is who you are. It's the same with your business. The internet is brilliant for so much inspiration and aspiration and knowledge and all the rest of it. But you have to feel your business. You have to feel your next chapter of where it is that you're going. And as part of this process of really clearing that space, I keep coming back to it, you have to be in alignment with all of those things. And one of the ways that you can do this is practice saying it out loud. I get my clients to do this all the time. Read your website out loud. And they're like, what? Read my website out loud. And sometimes it's that moment where they'll start reading it to me and they're like, wow, it's really long, isn't it? I'm like, it's really long. And they're like, I'm going to get rid of that paragraph. I'm like, great. Yeah, because it is really long. Your body will tell you. Your body will tell you where it's out of alignment, where there's something going on that needs to change and shift and all of that. Part 2 is coming your way tomorrow. One final thing, I am opening up my spaces. I've just finished an acting job, so I've got some time next week to get cracking in terms of May. I've got strategy sessions. You can work with me for the entirety of May. My clients will tell me I am about momentum. And the way that I describe it is power walking moves. So you know those elders that have the whole power walking vibe down. They've got the bum bag, they've got the visor, they've got the glasses, and they're in the rhythm. They're in the rhythm, and it's not stressful, it's easeful, and they can be like, hi, yeah, and like, yeah, I know I look good, and they can chat to their friends, and but they're moving, and they're creating momentum. That's where I want to get you in May, in that groove. Like, let's move all the way through to the 31st of May. Now, an entire monthly package may not be for you. You might just want to do a strategy session, but there are so many different ways that I can help you. And as I mentioned, I always have that holistic thing. So even if you want to talk to me about pricing or goal setting or speaking or whatever it might be, I've always got this in mind of pulling it all together so it makes sense. And this contradicts what most people will say, because most people will say work with somebody who is like one expert, they have one niche. But I also know that I'm not formulaic, and you have to bear in mind all of these things. It's like trying to reverse parallel park something. There's no point going, hi, I'm really quick and I can get into spaces really quickly if somebody's crossing the road behind you. You have to be aware of all of the pieces all together. And equally, you might create a beautiful spreadsheet of like, this is how I'm going to make this money. If I sell 10 of these things, I'm going to make this amount of money. And I will say, how does that feel? And you might go, yeah, it feels all right. I'm like, okay, so what else do you feel? What else is going on under there? Because you can write the best spreadsheet if you like, but if you can't talk about it and speak about it, you're not going to sell the spots. I'm going to leave it there. I will be back tomorrow with part 2. Thanks for joining. I'm also going to upload, I'm going to save this here, fingers crossed, and then add it to YouTube as well. If you're not subscribed on my YouTube channel, come on over, because there's loads and loads of content. I'm going to walk around in my new trainers because I'm 5. No, because I love new trainers. Oh, they smell so good. And I quite like this sort of design. I feel like a bit of a dad in the 80s who's going to take 19 kids ice skating. Whose idea was that? That's it. It's getting dark here. I'm going to make a brew. Thanks for watching. If you want to find out more, thank you. You want to find out more, send me a message. Let me know what's on your list. Let me know what you need support with, and let's get into the groove. Lots of love. Have a good sleep and see you tomorrow. Bye.